Randy Altschuler is a Republican candidate for Congress in the #1 district, which is presently being held by Tim Bishop. Randy has been a successful entrepreneur, community leader, and dedicated family man. Graduated from New York City school systems and worked to put himself through the College of Princeton. He graduated Princeton University, where he earned a BA with high honors and studied abroad in Vienna. He went on to receive his MBA from Harvard Business School. He's currently executive chairman of Cloud Blue, a company he founded, and has 16 facilities across the country with 300 jobs. His company is a leading provider of recycling services for electronic equipment, printers, and such. Okay. He was a founder of Office Tiger, a company dedicated to upgrading business support services. Under Randy's leadership, Office Tiger expanded from its one-bedroom apartment to a business that created 4,000 jobs in the United States and around the globe, and until its acquisition by Donnelly, R.R. Donnelly in 2006. Let's see. He was named winner of the New York Top 10 Awards by the Executive Council of New York. Randy is also a member of the Smithtown Chamber of Commerce, an active participant with the New Yorkers for Growth. Randy is married to Cheryl Altschuler, a medical doctor, practicing pediatrics in Shirley and Port Jefferson. Randy and Cheryl reside in St. James there with their young son Noah and newborn daughter Sasha.
Talking behind here, or just talk right here. Well, it's great to be here this morning, and I appreciate the invitation, and I look forward to talking with everyone. It's great to be in a room filled with business people and folks who are concerned about growing our community, and small business in particular is so important to the 1st Congressional District and to Long Island and to this country. People often ask me, why did I decide to run for Congress? I mean, I spent my whole life in business. I was not politically active before that. Well, the answer is, we are facing dramatic problems right now today. And my children, my 5-year-old and 1-year-old, are not going to have the same opportunities I have. They're going to grow up in a different America than I grew up in, unless we start getting involved. Washington is filled today with men and women, many of whom have never worked in the private sector before. People who don't know what a P&L is, profit and loss, they don't even know what a P&L is. People who clearly don't know how to balance a budget. Our debt is over $15 trillion. It's increasing by an additional $1 trillion, over $1 trillion a year. Since the Great Recession began, we've lost 6% of all American jobs. They're gone. Social Security and Medicare, which are so important and which we must protect, are both in danger because of our reckless spending. We have never developed an independent energy policy, which creates a national security risk for us, and which has a terrible impact on our economy nationally, particularly here on Long Island, where energy costs are so high. And in the midst of all these serious problems, what is happening in Washington? They're simply fighting. And there's so much partisanship that nothing is getting done. And year after year, we're continuing to mortgage our future and not address these serious problems. Now, we're not going to change Congress if we don't change our congressman. And our congressman, Tim Bishop, is a major part of the problem. Congressman Bishop has been there for 10 years. Since he's been our congressman, over 30,000 jobs have left Long Island. Since 2000, 12% of 25 to 34-year-olds, let's go back to Jerry's comment before, but it's showing 12% of 25 to 34-year-olds have left Long Island. Now, you know why they've left Long Island. Because there aren't jobs here. Because the cost of living is so expensive here. This is the record that Tim Bishop has had as our congressman. He is voted with his party 94 to 98% of the time every year. It depends on the year. Sometimes we get lucky, he's only at 94%. Often he's at the higher end of that. Now we know from last election, some of you are probably covering it, it was a squeaker. I was ahead after we counted the ballots on election day and then lost in the absentee ballots. But that sent a very clear signal to me, which I frankly already knew, that this is a divided district. This is not a Republican district. This is not a Democratic district. This is a district where people vote on the person, where people vote on the issue. And at the end of the day, they care about what gets done to help the first congressional district and what gets done to help our country, not what gets done to help somebody's party. And Tim Bishop doesn't understand that message. In fact, he went back to Congress after almost losing, after winning in the closest race in the entire country. He went back to Congress and repeated the same voting record that he's had over and over again. And he gives lip service to bipartisanship. But for Tim Bishop, the fault for what's going on in this country always lies with the Republicans. And even if you go to his campaign website, he's got an article there that talks about why the Republicans are wrong. If we're going to fix the problems in our country today, which my children, your grandchildren deserve, we're going to have to do it together. We're going to have to roll up our sleeves. And it's not easy work. As business owners here, you understand that. Starting a company doesn't go like that. You can't just make it happen overnight. It's not lofty rhetoric. It's every day going to a customer, trying to earn their trust. It's creating a product, often modifying that product, trying to make sure it's the right product for the market. It's ensuring that the cost structure of your business matches your profitability. It's adapting to the market as the economy goes up and down. It's every day that you're fighting through that. And to fix this economy and fix our country, we're going to have the same attitude. Now that's why I came up with the 10-point job plan. And it's on my website, which is down right now because we got attacked by a spammer. But we've got copies of it here today, which my colleague Ken will gladly hand around. And it's a 10-point job plan which goes in detail, 12 pages, about steps that I would take as the congressman for the 1st Congressional District to help bring jobs back to Long Island and to get our economy back on its feet. Now it talks about things from tax breaks to small businesses, which dominate our district here today. It talks about tax breaks to make sure that our companies, our corporates, are competitive worldwide. We right now have the highest corporate tax rate in the world. That's driving businesses out of America. It talks about cutting through a lot of the red tape that makes it so difficult locally to do business. Now, again, on Long Island we have over 400 governments on Long Island. In New York State, I think there are almost 10,000 governing entities. That's very difficult to navigate when you're trying to get stuff done. Doesn't matter if you're a Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, doesn't matter. That is a difficult bureaucracy to navigate, and we are making it tough for businesses that want to do the right thing. We talk about regulation. Now, regulation is important. I strongly support the environment, and I strongly support protecting consumers. But we have gotten to a point where our regulators are our enemies of business, not their partners. And they should be working together with businesses to protect consumers, to protect our environment, but also to ensure that companies can actually operate here in the United States of America. And they have to factor in the cost of the regulations that they're piling on. Now, mandates like the Affordable Care Act, which I affectionately refer to as Obamacare. The Affordable Care Act, that is something that we hand down in a rush, a giant bill, which clearly most people never read, because nobody can read something that large. I mean, you're business people. One of your colleagues or one of the people who work for you produced a plan that was thousands of pages long. Would that even be a conversation? Would that even be credible? No, because you can't operate in that. So they create bills that they don't read, that nobody really knows what it includes, and they throw this thing through, and they don't understand the ramifications of it. Now, of course we need to fix health care. That's a serious problem, but that's not the way to do that. And there are numerous bills, initiatives, mandates that our government today is trying to pass down, force down on businesses and on this country, which are not sustainable. We need to stop those as well. As I mentioned before, we need a comprehensive energy plan. It is a national security risk that we are depending on the Middle East and other unstable regions for our energy needs. And we've seen the ramifications. When there's the threat of something bad happening internationally, that often causes oil prices to spike. And that has repercussions throughout our entire economy, particularly here on Long Island. I talk about giving incentives for businesses to hire veterans. Tens of thousands of veterans are returning today from Iraq and Afghanistan, and there are no jobs. And let me tell you, my company, we have a lot of veterans, and they are tremendous employees. The skills and training that they have learned in the armed forces, the leadership that they have, is something that every company can use. And so we should try to provide incentives for companies to hire our veterans who already have served this country so well. My 10-point plan talks about what we're going to do for farmers and for fishermen. That's a little known fact, but Suffolk County is the highest revenue producing agriculture county in New York State. And thousands of jobs depend on Suffolk County agriculture. And our farmers have some issues. And I know actually the governor has been very helpful to try to help our farmers. So protecting that community, and I go through some points and things that we can do to help them, is very important. Our fishermen, again, all of us know that is an industry which has been in real trouble. And I talk about some steps that are going to help our fishermen here on Long Island. Now, none of this is going to be easy, but it's important stuff. And I think when I come back here 2 years from now as your congressman, my scorecard isn't going to be how hard I tried and a smile. But my report card is going to be how many jobs have been created here on Long Island. My report card is going to be, have we taken the steps necessary to fix the very serious problems that we're facing in this country? And excuses don't cut it. We only elect one congressman. There are only 435 people in the House of Representatives. Every single one of them counts. And every single person there needs to be doing their best to actually get stuff done, not blame others. Because it's all about the results. You know that every day with your businesses. If you don't make your numbers, if you can't achieve your goals, it's going to have real problems. It's going to mean that you're going to have to downsize your company. It could affect your personal pocketbook. So you work as hard as you can to ensure that doesn't happen. We need to have that same attitude in the Congress today. We need to get stuff done. And we need to elect men and women who've actually worked in the private sector and been successful at it. So I look forward to getting into Congress, coming back here periodically, reporting on what's happening, taking your input, and helping local businesses here on Long Island. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Randy. I'm going to assume that you're very sincere about building up jobs. And then you're going to have a plan.
Yes.
But the plan for the Republican Party is to destroy this president. That's their words, not mine. And if you do something like that, it's going to make this president look good. Are you going to buck the party?
So,
and how do you buck the party?
We call that a loaded question.
I call that a loaded question.
We call that Ernie.
Ernie, let me answer that question.
No, but that's a legitimate question.
Let me answer that question in a couple of different ways. First of all, the Republican Party does not want to destroy President Obama. And let me be very clear.
That's what they said.
Well, I've never heard anybody say that.
Mitch McConnell's.
President Obama is our president. At the end of the day, I wish him the very best. I wish every congressman, every senator, every state representative, every local representative the very best, because when they get elected, they're representing the people. And they deserve our full support and respect. So let me be very clear about that. That's the first thing. The second thing is, and I made this clear, Ernie, and maybe it wasn't clear enough, I'm not going into Congress to only vote what John Boehner tells me to do. Because if I'm doing that, I am no better than Tim Bishop, who simply does what Nancy Pelosi tells him to do. I'm going to Congress to do what's right for this district. And at the end of the day, that's what matters, and to do what's right for this country. And if that means that we all work together and the Democrats get half the credit, or 75% of the credit, or 90% of the credit, I actually don't care. I don't care whose name is attached to that bill. I just care that I've been in the trenches there working to make it happen and that it produced results. That's all that matters at the end of the day. The glory is when you're successful. The glory is when people go to work. The glory is when your children, when they graduate from our great universities here, with these great educational institutions. We're churning out highly educated students. We've got Brookhaven National Lab. There's this hotbed of technology here. The glory is going to be when they stay here on Long Island, and when they create new companies and new small businesses, and when we expand our tax base. So each of our individual property taxes goes down, because there's a bigger tax base to amortize the cost of education. That's when we're all going to have a high-five moment. And that high-five moment doesn't belong to me, because I get paid, and Congressman Bishop and many of the other representatives forget that. They work for us. At the end of the day, we're the people, we're their customers, and in fact, we're their bosses. So when we are successful, the glory belongs to the people. And we're simply the folks who are working in Washington to try to make that happen.
All right, I opened it up, so let's have some people.
I'd like to ask.
Gloria.
Obviously, my focus, as I had said, is on small business.
Sure.
Everybody, it's a great soundbite to say small business is the backbone of the economy.
Sure.
But as soon as the cameras go off, nothing happens.
Right.
So my question is very clear. I would love for you to finish this sentence for me. If I'm elected, the first three things I'm going to do, the first 3 things I'm going to do for small business are.
Good question. So nobody's asked that before, so I think first, as I talked to my jobs plan, reduce the tax rate for small businesses. And we identify small businesses, those with 500 employees and less.
That's perfect.
So that would be number 1. Number 2 would be to ensure that there aren't any more costly government mandates that hurt small businesses. Affordable Care Act being an example of that. So going through very steadily, making sure that that doesn't happen. Number 3.
Let me help you with
Just
number 3.
please.
Let me help you with number 3.
Please.
The bleeding from Long Island to North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia is painful to all of us.
Sure.
We were born here, we live here, we love Long Island.
Sure.
Help us retain the small businesses and support those businesses, the mid-sized businesses that are being lured away from Long Island,
Sure.
which is the perfect place to live, is Long Island, so I don't even get that.
And one of the things I put in my plan where is that I have a person who's dedicated. Their focus is going to be on trying to either help companies here expand or bring new businesses to Long Island. You know, effectively a salesperson for the district. Because I think one issue that we've had and where we've fallen behind in the past is that often there's competition for companies, whether or not it's large or small businesses. And we need a government here. We need elected officials who every day are going to be showing and going out of their way why this is the right place to be. Because companies have the option. If you're an entrepreneur or a small business owner, you have the option to go start a business somewhere else. You don't have to do it in your hometown. You don't even have to do it in the country. And one of the failings we've had as our elected officials is that we need to be aggressive in retaining those people and encouraging them to come. And the states that have been successful have some of their governors, some of their elected officials, you know, all down the road, have been the most aggressive in doing that. And all of our elected officials need to learn a lesson from that.
Chris, you had a question.
Yeah, while people were making a fuss over almost $1 billion in bailouts, the Federal Reserve quietly created and loaned to U.S. and foreign banks $16.1 trillion. Would you abolish the Federal Reserve, or at least make it auditable?
Yeah. I would not abolish the Federal Reserve, but I do think it's important. I know that there's, I think, a bill right now going through Congress about auditing the Federal Reserve.
Would you vote for that?
I would vote for that.
Mr. Cooney?
Within the last couple of days, the House passed a bill that extended the Bush tax cuts for another year, which I think most of us would probably support. Yet absurdly in that bill, it increased the taxes on low and moderate income families by reducing the income tax credit. Many of those families are military families. Did you have voted for that bill as it was written?
And the bill, and you're saying to reduce the...
It reduced the earned income tax credit, which essentially...
I would not.
I would not.
Oh, go ahead, John.
So I think that if we were closer to Manhattan, time-wise, that would change our small business opportunities, whatever the thing is going to make better. So we need to get through the bottleneck in Queens, which is being held up for no good reason by local politics there. We need a third track in that Hicksville area. We should have maglev from Babylon east, as far east as possible. And this commute, when the east side access tunnel is done, which is going to be 4 years, at the same time, we should have this second track built out here so that we are 45 minutes from Manhattan. That would change our things out here quite a bit.
I would, great question. Pretty question, so.
How do we get that 1 hour commute down to 45 minutes?
And I don't have a 1 hour commute. I mean, I live in St. James, which is,
It's
pretty.
2 hour and 20 minutes.
Right, which is
Yeah, I
pretty
like that.
far west on, in the first congressional district, and it's a long commute. Look, I believe strongly in infrastructure investments, and I know that many folks in this room have gotten different projects, and I think that those are terrific. And I'm not gonna get into particulars of every project, but I think it's infrastructure investment right now is critical. And I say that not all Republicans believe in that. I believe in that. I think that those are investments